Hi, St. James. I wanted to take a moment and talk to you a little bit about the coronavirus and what St. James is doing to prepare for the coronavirus. First of all, what is the coronavirus? It is a virus that comes out of China that apparently is spread in a similar manner to the flu. It is spread through droplets, through sneezing, through getting the infected material on your hands, touching your nose, eyes, and face, which then allows that virus to enter into the human system. We human beings swim in a gene pool of bacteria and viruses every day. However, this virus is different. Other viruses we have built up an immunity to. We know them well. We have vaccines for them. This virus is new. It is from the animal kingdom, and this is its first transmission into a human population. So we still don't know a lot about this virus. We still don't know the progression of the disease. We don't know how to treat the disease. We do not have vaccines for the disease at this point. So we are in a great learning curve about this virus right now. But one thing that we do know is that this virus tends to attack people who are older, that have underlying health issues, and also people that have compromised immune systems. Now, the CDC is recommending that all such Americans that fall into that category limit their public contact to limit their chances of transmission of this disease. Now, although there are no recorded cases of the coronavirus here in the upstate, it is only a matter of time before it is here. And now is the time to be proactive and to prepare. Now, the best defense from all information that we have for the coronavirus is to wash your hands frequently. Keep the virus and other pathogens off of your hands by hand washing with warm water and soap for approximately 30 seconds and using a clean paper towel or other towel to dry your hands. Also, using hand sanitizers in between hand washings can help to prevent the virus from becoming attached to your hands and then being transmitted to your face. The other thing is to try and avoid touching your eyes, your nose, or your mouth, or your face with your hands, because that is apparently the entryway for the virus into the human system. It is through the eyes, through the nose, through the mouth. So the less you touch your face with your hands, the less chance you have of transmitting or catching that disease. So how is St. James preparing for the coronavirus? Well, we're preparing for it in 3 different ways. First, we're undergoing an increased sanitation regimen here at the church. We're going to be wiping down door handles after each church service. We're going to be wiping the backs of the pews where people come in and hold to sit down, and also the ends of the pews. So all those common points of touch, we're going to have an increased sanitation regimen for those. We're also going to be wiping down bathroom faucets and bathroom counters between church services. And we've provided hand sanitizer throughout the property for you all to use as you come in to cleanse your hands before you come into the nave. Now, we are going to have some changes to our worship, and some of the changes are as follows. The first change is we are going to cover the baptismal font at this point. Now, why are we doing that? Well, as you can imagine, if the virus is transmitted through human touch and human touching of common elements, having dozens of hands going into the same water as we come into the church and then immediately touching your face with your hands could indicate a method or a path of transmission for the virus. So what I have decided to do is place the cover on the baptismal font for the foreseeable future. So there will be no water in the font and it will be covered. For those of you who routinely come into the church and dip your fingers into the water and cross yourself in memory of your baptism, you are still welcomed and invited to do so. You just don't dip your fingers in the water. As you pass the font, go ahead and cross yourself in remembrance of your baptism. The next thing that I've decided to do is to remove the altar rails from the church on a temporary basis. Now, why have I decided to do that? The altar rails are a place when we come forward for communion, almost everyone without exception, when they go to kneel down, grasp the altar rails and kneel down. And then the next thing we do is we put our hands up to receive the bread and put it directly on our face. There are multiple sets of hands grasping the altar rail during communion. So one of the points of human transmission, touching things other people have touched and trying to keep our hands away from our face, is exactly what we do when we use the altar rail. Now, as I said, in a normal situation, we are used to the viruses and bacteria that we encounter every day, but this is a different situation. So for the time being, I'm going to remove the altar rails from the church so that we do not have that opportunity for human contamination of the surface, possibly picking up the virus in your hands. I would lay the bread in your hands, and then immediately you put it up to your mouth and you have encountered that virus. So the altar rails are going to come out of the church for a temporary time period. Also, we're going to be doing standing communion from now on. Since there are no altar rails, we will have a chalice on each side, and the chalice bearers have been re-educated on how to properly clean the chalice. And they're going to clean the chalice with the purificator, always keeping a clean edge and wiping it and turning it as they go. However, I do encourage you, if you are not comfortable receiving the cup, to just pass it by. By having standing communion, that makes it much easier to just pass the cup by without having the cup passed down the altar rail and you having to cross your arms and wait for it to pass. With standing communion, once you've received the bread, if you choose not to receive the wine, you can simply return to your seat. Also, another change, and this comes from the diocese, this comes from our bishop, is a request that everyone discontinue intinction. Now, what is intinction? Intinction is when we take the wafer and we dip it in the wine, and then we consume it. Why are we being asked to discontinue intinction? We're being asked to discontinue it because while there have been studies on the common cup and drinking from the common cup and finding that it is a low method of transmission of disease, by taking your fingers and placing them in the cup and possibly touching the wine, that does compromise the common cup much more than simply drinking from it. If you think about all the bacteria and germs we typically have on our hands, intinction introduces those into the cup in a unique way. So what I would ask is that those of you who use intinction, please just receive the bread and walk past the cup rather than intincting from now on. And again, that is a request from our bishop and from our diocese. Also, the bishop and the diocese have asked us to ask you to suspend shaking hands during the peace. Hand-to-hand transmission is, as we've said, a problem. So by keeping our hands to ourselves and by not touching others' hands or other common areas where hands have touched, we have a much lower chance of picking up the virus. So when it comes time for the peace, if you would please just nod to each other or bow to each other, that is fine. And when it comes time the receiving line after church, I also will be having my hands in front of me and welcoming you as you come through, but trying to reduce the amount of contact that I have with people. If you think about it, sometimes I have 200 hands I shake in a morning coming through, and every hand I shake is like shaking the other person's hand. So let's try, at least temporarily, to refrain from shaking hands as part of the peace and during the receiving line. Other things that we're going to do. Because part of our congregation is older, and older people have been warned that they are especially susceptible to the virus, we're going to begin live streaming our services at 8 o'clock and at 10:30 every Sunday morning. So if you are not feeling well for any reason, you can stay home and you can watch the services on your computer. If you have a computer with an internet hookup, you can log into our webpage, and I will include a link to that webpage on this email. You can log into that webpage and you can watch our services at 8 and 10:30 every Sunday, so that if you're not feeling well, you're not endangering others, and if you're concerned about your own personal health and safety because you fall into one of the categories the CDC has recommended take special precautions, you can participate in our services at home without putting yourself at risk. Also, we've invested in a program called Zoom, which is a program that allows us to have online meetings. So if you have a computer with an internet hookup and you have speakers, you can log into a class, into a meeting, and you can attend that class or meeting remotely. Again, if you're not feeling well and you don't want to come to a class, if you let the person who is convening the class know, we will provide an opportunity for you to attend the class via the internet using the online Zoom program. I want to thank you for your flexibility and your understanding as we meet this public health challenge. Please keep the first responders and medical professionals who are ministering to those who have been stricken by the virus in your prayers. Also keep the scientists who are working to find answers and a possible vaccine for the virus. Also, please keep them in your prayers. And most of all, pray for those who are sick, those who have died, and for their families. I'll make further announcements as necessary. Thank you for your attention, and may God bless you and keep you.